Hi, everybody. Book. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. It is Sunday night. I'm closing the other things. And it is the second to last live session that I'll be doing to read my book. This is the last task and the last chapter before the epilogue, which is kind of like, what happened and what the consequences were and that kind of thing. So thank you for joining me so far. I really appreciate it. Sometimes we help each other through times. I knew that I needed to do this for myself, but it wasn't until I was in the middle of it, for even just the first or second or third chapters, that I realized that the reason I knew I needed to do this was, it was for myself. I think if I had tried to pick up my book and just read it without your help and presence, I would have put it back down at least for a while. So thank you very much for joining me in this endeavor of what I've realized is facing my own self of 12 years ago and all the stuff that I dealt with for a really long time. It's been really intense and humbling to see where I haven't changed, to see where I have. And just, I'm so thankful for the growth that I've been able to work through, the stuff I've been able to work through in the last couple of years, which you're going to, if you're around, I'm going to be talking about more in the future. So if you're here for the first time, this is my book. I'm actually working on a bit of a cover rework because Facebook won't let me run ads because of the picture that is the chapter that we're going to be hearing tonight. And because it's naked, whatever. No boobs. Okay. It's a memoir about sowing your wild oats late. There's a link on my page and a link in this description to the full playlist on YouTube. And it's called the Church of Wild YouTube channel. That's my next sort of endeavor. The title of the guide that's going to go with this book. I've had an agent ask for it. So, and what else? I've drunk enough coffee today, but I'm still drinking tea right now. I hope you'll join me. If you drink whiskey, drink it as we do this. So, last chapter before the epilogue. This is it. Chapter 24. For those who haven't been here before, there are italics that run throughout the book that are inner thoughts. I try to stay on top of that and kind of give it a different feel because it changes to first person as I'm reading to you. I will be working on the audiobook after this, the proper official audiobook, so stay tuned for that, as well as I said, a cover rework. And then there are parentheses throughout the book as well that are from 2016, which is when this was published. Sort of a current context or a finishing of the story that doesn't need much more. Kind of a secondary storyline is what's in those. So it's about 4 minutes. I'm going to take a drink and let's get to it. Okay. It's hot enough to go when it goes all the way, you can feel it all the way down. All right. The eye of the storm. A small rebellion? The first tattoo I ever saw up close was with my family one Christmas. My little brother was around 20 years old. My mom and dad hadn't yet divorced, and we all basked in post-opening presents hilarity. My brother said, "Dad, I have one more present for you." Parentheses. I sit here these 2 decades later, recalling my dad's face. And finally, I recognize his sheepish expression as tender-hearted delight in being cherished. Whew. All he wanted was to be cherished. It's what we all want at the root of everything. In his face, in that moment, I saw delight at being surprised and given a gift beyond the equal gifts for everyone tally. I saw the little kid in him that good parents squelch in themselves on Christmas morning as the role of gift receiver becomes gift giver. "Oh yeah?" said my dad. My brother stood next to him and pulled his pants down to expose his right hip and said, "Look." My dad raised his head and pushed his glasses down on his nose like an old man to see a small green 4-leaf clover. "What do you think, Dad?" my brother asked. Dad chuckled a little. "Well, it's not real," he asked, his eyes squinting a little as he raised his eyebrows in the way he always did right before a lecture, like that. And parentheses, I make the same face. "Nope, it's real," said my brother. "Touch it." As he did, my dad's face relaxed into a smile, transformed into appreciation. "It's beautiful," he said. My dad couldn't have forbidden him the tattoo, but my brother looked relieved as he said, "Thanks, Dad." I was in awe of his tattoo, with no context for understanding his decision. Parentheses. I wonder now if their relationship changed after that. Back then, I was the good girl, the leader, never rebelling. Now, I've become the black sheep, even a Democrat, and I wonder if, in that moment, my brother was acting as my dad expected, or if this was a sudden rebellion. Did they grow apart because of it, or did my dad really not care? Was he able to submerge his judgment of tattoos enough to make his son free? Globular. Earlier in the summer, I had lost my 4th friend of 8 because of the project. I came home crying and told Jack all about it. "This is not what I meant to happen," I wailed. "It's not worth it. I don't want to lose my friends." Jack spoke cliché, yet truth. If they can't be your friends through this, they weren't your friends to begin with. That doesn't make me feel any better. Besides, you have to do this, right? That's what you said all along. I sighed. Yes, it's true, but I miss my friends. It feels like I've started this storm that I have to go through to be okay with my life. But I'm stuck in the whirl on the outside of a tornado when I want to be in the eye where it's calm, I said. I wish I could find that quiet space. The next day, I was sitting in the summer sun on the patio at Rico's, and I looked down at my leg. Since I knew getting a tattoo would be this project's mark of achievement, I had researched symbols, honing in on the spiral. I planned a spiral badge, a la Girl Scouts badge, on my left shoulder. But as I looked at my leg, my mind expanded in the way it always does when I get a big idea, coming fully formed, globular, detailed. I took my pen and started drawing on my right toe. I want to be at the eye of my storm. What if the tattoo is the storm and I am the eye? I drew a line spiraling around my leg, imagining its ending at my back in another spiral, as though at the top of a thundercloud, above it all. After that, the tattoo could be nothing else. Report. Like a tornado. Scared, spitless. That is how I feel. So, I'm just going to do it. Okay, I said to myself in my car driving to the tattoo parlor. So here we go. Aaron met me there at 4 p.m. After the massage, my day had been full of children, and I was in a fog of fatigue from staying up so late the night before to skinny dip. I wore a stretchy black skirt and camisole to preserve a little modesty as I got the tattoo. Over my entire body. Am I crazy? Half walls separated artist spaces so anyone could watch. The artist, Chris, was quiet and precise. I had already explained the concept, but showed him again how I wanted the spiral to go, and he understood immediately, marking it in ballpoint pen on my skin. So you want it to be from the small point and come out clockwise, he said. Yes, exactly, I said. Phew, we are on the same wavelength. Chris explained that he was using the 7-needle pen for a thicker line with black squid ink that would never turn blue. He got to my back and I said, I want it to end here, pointing to a place just under where a collar might fall on the back of my neck, so I can wear a top without showing it if I want. Erin came up as he was finishing the ballpoint line, and she looked at my back and said, "Oh, cool. Janae, I love that." We gathered an audience as the design of the tattoo began to show. A beefy, multi-tattooed young guy asked me, "You're doing this for a book?" "Yeah," I said in a break from the needle pen. "It's about making the wild a part of everyday life, not just going crazy, you know?" "Yeah, actually," he said, "I get that. You said you have kids?" "3," I said, smiling. He looked surprised. 7, 4, and 1-year-olds. "So you sowed your wild oats after having them?" His face looked cautious and intrigued. "Yeah, over 20 of them this summer," I said. "So you had sex," he said. "Wait, what?" "You sowed wild oats," he said, "but are you married?" "Oh, you thought that meant I went out and had a lot of sex?" I asked. He nodded. "No, more complex than that. And yes, I am married." He looked relieved in a way. "You're not the first to wonder. My mom friends, oh my God, they were worried for a minute." He laughed. As a perfectionist, I was expecting disappointment. But Chris manifested my spiral without one iota of disappointment. Erin chattered to everyone around us, taking photos on her phone and recording the whole thing. Wearing stretchy clothes was working as I turned one way and then the other, back to front, as Chris worked his way up, starting at my toe, just like I had imagined, coming from the ground up like a tornado. I tried to recall another time in my life that I had willingly submitted to such pain. The candle story surgery? Yes, though that only lasted 15 minutes, not 2.5 hours. Childbirth? Sort of. It was longer, more difficult, and more painful. It was voluntary at the beginning. We did have sex, after all. But it became outside myself over the months, an involuntary trial to endure. My choice and not my choice. Like and unlike this. My brain on pain felt so different, almost elated. I had chosen this project and endured. For once, I'm in control. Is this why people cut themselves? For the endorphin rush? Do people return for more tattoos because of this? Is this the root of BDSM? When Chris's needles glided over bone or the tender flesh behind my knee or the inside of my thigh, the pain amped. I breathed deeply. I was facing the floor and made my eyes trace curved scratches as the needles scratched me. When I faced the ceiling, my eyes sought curves again and landed on the heating vent. I breathed in when the needles lifted from my skin and breathed out in one long breath as he made my body a map. A map of what? Chaos to order? The storm incarnate? If I'm a guy. As the tattoo climbed my leg and circled my hips, The burly guy in his tight muscle shirt that set off his many tattoos walked back up to us. He chatted again with Aaron for a while and then exclaimed, pointing at the line on me, "I'm sorry, but if I'm a guy, I'd want to know where that goes." We all laughed, but I realized I had missed the sexual impact of my line. Obviously, he might think it went somewhere near the softest spaces between my legs. Ouch! Will everyone think this? It was yet another instance when my words or actions seemed sexual to everyone but me. Story of my life. Pregnant moment. Early the next day, I wasn't in as much pain as I'd expected, but parts of me stung more than others, and I didn't want to get out of bed. Turning over didn't help, though, so I got up and went to the bathroom. Half awake, I sat staring at the shapes and characters my eyes had found for years in the linoleum under my feet. The shy woman holding the fan in front of her face, the duck captain, the tiger. Parentheses. My daughter recently said she sees the same people in the linoleum. Genetics. So weird. Suddenly, my eyes focused on my own skin, as though it was outside me, like the linoleum. And I followed the line that was now not on me, but was me. Someday when I die, those caring for my body will say, "No, the striped one over there." I felt exactly the same way as the day after discovering I was pregnant. No going back. This is me. Juvenile. My first conversation with Kate about drinking and control in the fall of the previous year had inspired the project, resulting in transformation. I was beginning to perceive it. But I lost Kate over the summer. Though she had tried to support me in attempting the astrology reading, her words often reflected thinking my tasks were juvenile. I thought so too at first, but had discovered unexpected meaning in facing my fears. I had wanted and needed my friends to do things with me precisely because they had been there, done that. Parentheses. It took years for me to realize that most of the non-responses I suffered from friends were truly about them, their memories, and their fears. Kate and I had grown apart because I could not talk with her about what filled my time. I missed her. So when she asked me to go to a party a day or two after getting the tattoo, I was excited. I wore a skirt so I could show her my line. I extended my leg and turned so she could see my back, and she asked, "That's permanent, not henna?" "Yes, you know it is," I thought. "Well, I can't say I like it," she said. "Really?" I was shocked. "I mean, if it's what you want, it's what you want, but I wouldn't do it." "It is," I said, trying to keep the hurt and anger from showing. "We have this customer we call the tattoo lady. She comes in for lunch dressed in a nice business suit, and then you can see this tattoo on her arm sticking out below her sleeve," she said. "Yeah? I wonder what the tattoo looks like," I thought. "And it looks ridiculous because it just doesn't fit," she said. "Yeah, she doesn't mean this is bait. Doesn't mean to hurt me," I thought. "It looks like she got it when she was 20, and she surely regrets it," she said. "It looks ridiculous." "Do you think she regrets getting it?" I asked. "I don't really know, but it doesn't matter because it just doesn't fit." "Maybe it makes her feel beautiful?" I asked. "And if she does regret it, do you think maybe she sees it as part of her journey back then and not really a bad thing?" "It looks ridiculous." I dropped it because it didn't matter. Its design would have mattered to me, but not to Kate. The thing is, Owen, who loves my tattoo, has also said people should present a, quote, package deal to the world. And though I see their point, I do not agree. I think beauty lies in dichotomy, contrast, and surprise, not in a cohesive package. It's the difference between a tract house with white walls, cream furniture, and beige carpet, and a downtown 1920s bungalow with mismatched nooks, crannies, cracks, and colors, creating a vibrant whole. Kate and I parted amicably after the party, but our friendship waned, one of the deepest losses of my summer. Parentheses. Years later, she said she had come to understand it from my perspective, and I was able to tell her that I finally understood her reaction better too. Not yet the end. Though I had gone on and on about my big tattoo idea, I had hesitated to come right out and ask Jack what he thought of my plan. And he hadn't mentioned it or asked questions. As I told him of Kate's disdain and my hurt feelings, out of my mouth popped, "I mean, you like it, right?" Because it was ridiculous that he wouldn't. And he said, "What I think doesn't really matter now, does it?" I do not recall if I spoke words. All I heard was a wail rising from the base of my spine. Why? Why did he say nothing if he didn't like it? That moment compounded with the last few years in a vacuum-like feeling. He had abandoned me. Would he watch me hang myself if preventing it required him to speak? On the one hand, I could say his silence was respect of my freedom and autonomy, showing he wanted me to be wholly myself, even if he didn't like what I became. On the other hand, I wanted to be so bonded and intimate, one flesh, that a tattoo on me would reflect who we were together, and he would care about it. I wanted him to turn towards me, to know and want to know me, and be delighted with what he found, even twisty, darker, tattooed parts of me. That one sentence destroyed those hopes. I had put the sex things on my oat list so he would have to do some things with me over the summer, hoping it would create more intimacy. It was for nothing. My world had shifted beyond me. Decoration. Drink. We did not speak the word tattoo to our children, using decoration instead. Mama got a decoration on her leg, for example. Sage once came home from school with 4 different verbs decorating her arms and legs, and the week before she made her right leg plaid with a ballpoint pen. Parentheses. Her henna designs are now at professional level. Mom brag. Every so often, I felt a light touch on my toe and looked down to see Percy focused. Percy was 4 at the time. To see Percy focused on tracing the black spiraling line from start to finish. He was 1 then. Leo became quiet one afternoon, and I found him sitting on the kitchen floor, drawing for the first time on the linoleum. His small hand traced spirals in Sharpie. His crawling perspective had been the closest of us all to my foot's spirals. I wonder how the spiral as his first core symbol will impact his life. Mine was the cross. September's journal. This is a couple pages of journal entries. Journal. I do not make stupid decisions, and thus my growth is limited. Journal. I hate nothing more than when people are with me out of a feeling of obligation, because they think I need them or because I've had to ask for their presence. I knew this would happen, that people would be interested in the project, in my brilliant idea, but when it was all over, they would fade away. I knew that I alone would not hold their interest, affection, or love. I am boring and not worth their time. It's as though I'm back in college, inviting myself over because my presence is never assumed. I don't have people calling me up saying, "Where are you? You're always here." Now it's just my little family and that's it. Infinitely beautiful, but not the same. Owen sees me as a project. Fuck him. I don't need him or anybody except my family, and if it were to come down to it, maybe not even then. I am alone and always will be. I will always get trumped, just like it's been through life and this whole project. Their loss, I guess. It hurts. Journal. I'm writing a Hagia Sophia, and a man has sat down next to me staring at my tattoo. His muttering and twitching show he's clearly mentally disturbed, but something about the pattern fascinates him. I want to move, but I feel sorry for him too. The power of a symbol. Parentheses. I have learned to cover my leg if I don't want to talk with strangers. It is on me and a part of me. I am both fine with this and quail at the constant attention, even 9 years later. Journal. We make our beautiful, toned through pain bodies far stronger than our hearts. Why don't we exercise our hearts to build the muscle, enduring thousands of microscopic tears, emerging with a strong, vibrant, and intensely alive heart? Journal. Panic attack. Just want to be numb, to feel no pain. Don't even know why I'm crying. I feel like bottling myself up again, retreating back to familiar territory. Could I breathe there? I don't know. How have I coped all this time? Pack myself away, fall out of love with this person I found inside me, squeeze my heart until it barely beats so it will survive? There is so much to experience, and I have only this one life. How do I choose what to do or see or keep or love? Is there a place for hedonism? That's why people go to those raves, because they find a place to be wild. Parentheses. Okay, or they're drug addicts. I didn't know. I want to do what I want to do, and damn the rules. It might hurt, but so does this. Journal. I knelt down at my couch just now, not really knowing why. Old habits. Trying to pray to Mother, Father, God, as I have come to see whoever is up there. My emotions are so intense, positive and negative, happy and sad. Analytical tendencies, still here in spades. My libido, hypersensitive still. I'm overwhelmed with the beauty of this one, only one life. I want to do everything, right or wrong, heaven take the consequences. I feel like I've made too few mistakes, cordoned off my heart and mind and not lived. And now I live in the midst of boundaries and realities, all mostly beautiful, that I've chosen and cherish and want to preserve, but seem like fences around me, my wonderful little family. And some say I just need to accept those fences and live the best life in the midst of them. But I'm not built that way. I am a gate crasher. My gut, head, and subconscious are desperately searching for a way to move in and out of that fence and remain a whole, truthful, loving person. Am I just a whiny child selfishly insisting on meeting her needs? Or are my needs so great that I can't contain them? How do I contain them without becoming a liar? How do I not contain them without becoming a selfish bastard? I want to beg for help with this, but I don't know if anyone can help me. I must figure it out on my own, but how? I'll try a cabin in the woods. It worked for Thoreau, but did he have kids? Journal. Why do so many religious traditions perceive living as transitory and thus less valuable or precious? It is a doctrine of disconnect. What if religion called us instead to graft ourselves onto life? on to earth and others and pain and vice and beauty and purity and every experience we can manage. I don't want to reach the end of my life and have missed it by avoiding pain, regret, or risk. I want to walk on grass and stone and brick and sand and prickles, even if my feet bruise and bleed. I don't want to float through this precious life. I want to taste it, to chew it up, to ingest it, to let it mark my body, to mark it back in everything. Food, work, sex, friends, family, putting it all out there. Why the hell shouldn't I? This is my one fucking chance, damn it all. I refuse to fritter and fear it away. Like I run my hands through my hair, I am going to run through this life intensely, sensitively, as honestly as I can, even though I'm scared. Journal. I'm transcribing the pre-sex store entries. I'm transcribing the pre-sex store entries, and I'm having trouble focusing. My libido is so damn high right now for such a long time, too. I could literally have sex this second. I'm shaking, frustrated. Jack seems to disdain this. If I focused my thoughts just a little, I could orgasm sitting here in this Russian Orthodox-owned coffee shop. Am I just supposed to ignore this? Will this time end? Do I want it to? What should I do about it? What am I allowed to do about it? I need more shit. Journal. Common quote sense. Decide to regret what you didn't do and move forward with what you have. My question. What if not doing hinders you from moving forward and you end up frozen from trying to accept so-called reality? Why not do what you want, accepting the consequences? Journal. At Rico's, watching an older couple on a date. I've never liked obvious public displays of affection. Give me sly PDA, the mingling of arm hairs, the casual hand upon my back, the accidental fingers brushing mine as we walk, the hip, thigh, knee bond in the cab, the foot to foot under the table. This lover will read my body like Dostoevsky, plumb its hints and secrets. He will listen to its music and my involuntary sounds and will know and will want to know every detail until we are one, softly or quickly or savagely. Ageism. I used to disdain old men and women in snazzy red sports cars. Now I'm all for it. Fuck those who say fast cars are for the young. Age is all in your head. Maybe they aren't trying to recapture their youth as much as living how young they really are. Ditching society's shoulds. White muslin lies. A vision. I sit in my car and listen to Gillian Welch sing Black Star. I weep. I cover my eyes with my hands and lean back. And suddenly I stand on a horizon-to-horizon quilt. The quilt is covered with white muslin, rich colors underneath, glowing through. People run here and there, frantically stapling tatters undone from all the feet. Tatters flap up in the breeze that ripples the white. A lady with her hair in a bun leads a tour across a tatter-free zone, and a little girl lags behind, pulling the fabric up to her eye. Wielding golden staple guns like swords, others roll out another layer of white to repair a section, shoving bouncing people to the side even as they hold velvet and satin to their cheeks. They push those people to the side. I am on an edge. I squat down slowly and feel for the edge of the white muslin, my head upright so they don't notice my wayward hands. My fingers slide under its gauzy roughness to slip on satin. I can't help but look down and see that it is burgundy. My fingers move on to moss green velvet. I no longer care if they see me. I must see what else is there. I pull up and rip the muslin from flimsy golden staples. It billows in the wind and swirls around me. It covers my eyes, and when I pull it away, I see a man and a woman on either side of me, looking at the wind as though they've never felt it. As we look down together, and 3 barefoot right feet can't help but step up onto the quilt. Our toes, arches, and heels sink down like into thick grass on a waterbed. My feet slide, catch, scrape, slide again on the quilt, glowing so richly in such infinite colors that my eyes fill with tears. I get down on my hands and knees, my 2 friends log rolling away like kids down a hill, laughing. Some squares are transparent, so I can see the quilt's layers go down, planet deep. It smells musty and rich, like an attic and grass and overripe peaches. I stand, feeling perfectly balanced, though the wind whips my hair, lifting and flinging it across my eyes and mouth. The muslin we freed has attracted crane-legged staple people, skimmers across the muslin sea. No. I dip into the wind on my neck and arms and belly and thighs and feet, grabbing the fluttering white muslin. I dip, wave, spin, and twirl the dead white fabric around my wrist, and my body catches more and it swaddles me. I twirl the other way to unwrap myself, making a fabric ball. I dance away from the crane women. I hop over my log-rolling friends. I spin too fast and wham into a man dancing like me. We dance together for a while until we recognize the enormity of the white muslin sea. I smile at him. He smiles at me. We dance apart. I can see golden staple guns and claws behind me, but I pay them no heed. The whirlwind around me strengthens and whisks the white muslin ball out of my hands and carries it up and away. I look back at a sea of color, multitudes of people walking, crawling, resting, humping, smelling, and rubbing on the quilt I revealed. I look ahead and see the little girl. I pull up the muslin until I reach her. Her eyes widen at the edge in my hand. Then she smiles up at me and grasps the edge with me. I raise an eyebrow and smile back. She twirls it around her wrist and begins to whirl, turns, leaps, bounding across the color like a frog. I breathe in, then out, grab another tatter, and dance away in the wind. Mom. I showed my tattoo to my mother, and she didn't cry. For those of you joining me for the first time, my mom died 6 years ago. I was so proud of her. She did say, "Can you erase it? This is forever. I thought you would get a beautiful flower." I made her touch it. She rubbed the spiral on my back, almost smooth. When she touched the still ridged parts on my leg, she said, "Wow." Was she imagining the pain embedded there? She didn't love it, but also didn't completely hate it. I'll bet she cried in the car. Journal. Am I a moth to the flame? Dune and Spoon, October 2007. All through September, my shoulders would, I'm like, sorry, okay, relax my shoulders. All through September, my shoulders would not relax. I snapped at my children more than usual, and though I can usually pinpoint the source of feelings, this time I failed. I felt like I needed to be away from people, even those who loved me, to steep in silence, completely alone. I asked around if anyone had a cabin in the mountains. Nothing surfaced, so it became a matter of what we could afford. I had never camped in my life, but the Great Sand Dunes National Park was 3 hours south. So I borrowed a mommy sleeping bag and took off on the first Friday in October. I want to walk on the sand like Frank Herbert's Fremen, sleep on the sand, and feel the wind whip my face raw. Is this self-indulgence? Is this how to run away? I'm a huge Dune fan if you haven't figured that out yet. Excuse me. The night before I left, I asked Owen to make a mixed CD for the trip. At the beginning of this year, indie music had felt too intense, and now I love it. What's changed? I picked it up from his front stoop on my way out the next morning, stopped by the grocery store for campfire wood, and headed south on I-25. The first song on the CD was "One is the Loneliest Number." It was like a gut punch. The second song was "May the Wind Take Your Troubles Away" by Son Volt, and I was suddenly sobbing. The third was blues, my favorite, and the fourth, an instrumental, was fierce like Owen's personality. Both made me happy, inexplicably crying harder. "Break These Chains" by Rufus Wainwright and "Wicked Little Town" from Hedwig and the Angry Inch cracked me wide open, my attempts at holding everything together crumbling. I called Owen and accused him. "Did you mean to make me cry?" "Kind of." I could hear both a smile and a question in his voice. Through tears, I asked, "Why?" "I was trying to set an atmosphere for your trip." I thought, I don't even know why I'm going. How does he? Is he trying to make me cry about him? Is he conscious of his message? I don't know. I feel like I know nothing suddenly. "Well, it worked," I said, saying goodbye and hanging up. The music incited a keening that I couldn't stop. I cried all 3 hours to the sand dunes, arriving about an hour before sunset. I shouldered the sleeping bag and my backpack, apple, chocolate bar, water, a book, dune, and flashlight, ready to sleep out on the sand. The campground attendant's RV looked so cozy at the head of the path to the dunes, I almost skipped checking in. But the area was also deserted, so I figured it would be smart to let someone know where I was there and make sure I was headed in the right way. They were in their 70s, tall and tan, typical Coloradans, and looked surprised at my knock. "Hi," I said. "I'm going to sleep out on the dunes tonight. Do you think I can make it out there before the sun actually sets? I checked on the park website and it said it was fine." "Yes, but why?" the lady said, smiling but puzzled. "I need to sleep under the stars." As though he was surprised to hear himself, the man said, "Okay, see you in the morning." I raced the sinking sun on a hilly path winding through waist-high brush. The dunes suddenly filled the darkening sky. I had planned to get far from the campground, but had time only for climbing the closest one. Owen had shown me how to walk on sand, duck-footed. "I walk like this because it's how we walk in the desert," he said. "I wondered," I said. "It seemed like one of those mannerisms with a non-genetic source." "You won't sink." I surely looked like a duck going up the side of the closest dune, but I didn't sink. The wind made me glad I hadn't worn contacts as grit crusted my eyes. I had imagined camping in the midst of infinite dunes, but could no longer see far enough to walk. I worked my way as high as I could get, above a band of brush and hillocks between the dunes and the campground, where a few car lights shone. I sat on top of the first large dune, and watched cars on the highway as twilight deepened. The wind used my hollow like water in a riverbed. I could no longer see each grain of sand. The wind kicked up a notch. I thought of Dune, unreadable in the wind and dark, and of the Fremen, to whom the sand is comfort and death. I came here to be like them, but I suddenly hate the grit. Will it infect my nose piercing? As the stars got brighter, a dark shape seemed to move in the band of brush below, shifting positions. The park website warned of bears. Do they come up onto the dunes? Even as I put the possibility firmly in the back of my mind, the shadows seemed to grow. I can't give up. I can't. Not only would I have to fight bears on the path back, that shape could be a bear and get me if I move. Can he smell me? Would he smell my apple or chocolate bar? Oh dear God, what am I doing here? I began to get cold. I thought sand would be warm, but in the dark it was cold. It's glass, after all. I wanted to go back to my warm car and read. But besides the bears, it's practically deserted. Every horror movie I had never seen rose inside my mind. What if a psycho followed me up here waiting to pounce? My eyes obsessively scanned for bears and intruders. I must do this and can't be a chicken anyway. I lay down in the now half-buried mummy bag and pulled out a chocolate bar, tried a bite, and my mouth filled with sand. I guess food's out. I cinched the mummy bag down to only around my glasses and was comfortable at first, but then my body started to ache wherever it touched the dune. I burrowed in with my butt and hips, and it was better for about 20 minutes, and then it wasn't. Why did I leave the sleeping pad in the car? I ended up lying on my back, watching the sky. I must stay until the sun rises. Will I rise with it? The stars pushed down and lifted me. I had never seen the sky like this. What the hell am I doing here? I imagined a bear's snuffling and a stranger's footfall in the gusts. It was after maybe 8 o'clock. I hadn't brought a watch. Why am I here? I had to come. I don't know why. I needed to be in touch with nature and totally alone. Why? The whole heavens shifted over me. Panic bubbled as I turned back and forth, trying to get comfortable. The wind funneled between the dune and my face, sand blasting a tiny volcano around my still nude nose piercing. I spent hours staring at the stars, thinking, focused on withstanding unrelenting discomfort. My body hurt. I couldn't sleep. I was still scared of bears and crazy people, so I couldn't go back to my car. I was scared of myself, of the stars, of breaking. At about midnight, I seemed to shift with the stars, and I realized why I was there. The unknowns of eternity and death have always triggered my panic. How would I handle impending death? When would it happen? How? Praying never helped because I was facing the eternal God. All summer while doing the tasks of the project, I had faced the embedded fear of damnation. I didn't think they were all wrong, but I still panicked. All at once, the sky full of stars overwhelmed me. Compared to my short little life, they are eternal. And even though I'm made of the same eternal substances, what makes my little tiny life worth anything? Or anyone's little life, or even the span of humanity? What makes it worth anything? I refused to look away, doing my best to solve the most basic question of existence. Of course, the answer is love. When we fuck it up or run from it, when we mangle and disrespect it, that's when things go wrong. When we move towards love, cherish and respect it, when we imbue life with love, that's when things go right. It's the baseline for every human experience, and it's the only thing that makes my little life beautiful and even remotely connected to that eternity. How do I do that? What does that look like? I almost wailed out loud in the wind. Cherish echoed down from the stars to my mind. Cherish. I have to cherish every relationship, whether it's the guy bagging my groceries, or the stranger on the street, or my husband, or my children, or my friends, or the writer who annoys me every time she will not stop talking, not even for one measly breath. If I am going to live my life in an authentic way, I must cherish relationships while also cherishing my own life, not murdering it. I thought of those I knew who had chosen others' lives over their own, deeming theirs not worth the risk. All my knowledge coalesced as the stars and I became one. Murder in the Old Testament is not only sticking a knife in someone, but taking life itself away from someone. By disdain or social justice issues, ridicule, stealing, or dismissiveness. People choose to murder their lives every single day for societal structure and respect, for safety, for fear. And so it came down to the opposite of murder, love. As I looked up at the stars, deep in the vision, I knew that I loved Owen in a deep friend love. And I loved Jack, and somehow I had to cherish both of these relationships. I set my feet towards love. I shall not cordon off my heart, for the heart is a muscle, alive, pumping blood, strengthened with microscopic tears through regular use. It's not glass, breakable, an object to fall off a shelf and shatter. It's woundable, can get pummeled and bruised, can bleed, but it becomes resilient with use. We are out of practice. We are told to be safe and run, or be safe and build a wall around our hearts, to become impermeable. But if we barricade our heart for one person and not another, it only clamps off blood supply, killing instead of preserving. And it's a scary thing, and a complex thing, and a complicated thing to use our heart muscle. But skills can be learned and strengthened to handle the complexities. I shall set my feet towards love. I will not run. Dawn finally came. I looked down to my left and saw the shadow was a shrub, not a bear. I shall carry that metaphor forward. I got lost on the way down off the dune, but made it back to my car and went back to sleep on the camping pad that felt so comfy compared to the sand. Warm, I slept 7 hours. I woke and headed for Alamosa to call Jack, as my cell phone had no service. On the way, I passed a campground where I paid $5 for the best shower of my life. I got some food at a grocery store, ate, and called Jack on the payphone outside. I knew he didn't want to talk long, but he seemed relieved to know I was okay. We talked for about 10 minutes, and I told him about the quote, bear, and the discomfort. He empathized, and I said, I'll be home tomorrow night. Scheduled time away from small children was so rare, and I knew I needed every second of silence. Then I called Owen on the payphone, and we talked for almost an hour. I stood in the wind. I am so fucking sick of the wind. I hate this place. I hate wind. I am not Fremen. You sound really raw, he said. Yeah, I said, in as casual a tone as I could manage. Over the summer, I had lost the ability to fake being okay. I wanted to ask him to come there, right then, immediately. He was moving in just a few short weeks, and the pain of missing my friend had already begun. I wanted a memento, one last focus time with my friend for my heart scrapbook. But I only managed to half-jokingly say, you could come show me where to hike since you know the area. Yeah, he said, and my heart leapt, but I'm doing stuff with people tonight. And it sank. I wanted to insist. Wanted to say, you'll be done there by 10 and you could be here by 1 and we'd have all day tomorrow to hike and hang out. But I did not speak. I was scared. I didn't know why, but I couldn't articulate to him so blatantly. I went back to the campsite and didn't hike, didn't commune with nature. The fucking wind was still fucking blowing. I stayed in the back of my station wagon and read A Room with a View. I ate granola with no sand in it. I went to sleep soon after sunset. I woke with the moon shining in my eyes at about 6 a.m., and I did not think. I had watched The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell, and he said our primary system is the body, its vehicle, the subconscious. Our mind is a secondary system, and, Campbell said, trying to rule our lives from our mind is the path of insanity. If we do not learn how to reconcile, integrate, and listen to our primary system, we will never live a full life. And that is what happened that morning. I woke with no articulation of thought. My body acted. It was neither thought nor feeling. I washed my face and brushed my teeth, stayed dressed in the corduroys, comfy dress, and cardigan I had put on after that blissful shower, wore my glasses, got my stuff out of the bear box, packed up, and was on the road by 6:30. The highway was straight and downhill, and I flew, not crying one single bit. I called Owen when I was 15 minutes outside of town. I had no impulse or reason to go home, still in the quiet space of being apart from 4 people who needed me at every moment. Parentheses. Later, yes, I saw I had given myself freedom to not have to check in or tell anyone anything. But then it was the simple logic that I'd told Jack I was getting home that night, and that's when I would get home. I didn't really get any good sleep this weekend, I said. Even last night back in my car, I woke several times, dreaming and uncomfortable, and I really need to take a nap. I'm so sorry, he said. Would it be all right for me to come to your place and take a nap before I go home? I didn't think twice of asking. I wasn't thinking, only acting. And I had been to his place, knew his housemate and her boyfriend, and we were all friends. With not a hint of hesitation, he said, absolutely. So I knocked, and he was at the door, hugged me, we always hugged, and said, do you want to nap down here or upstairs? Parentheses. What I would still give to know what he was thinking. I looked at the dog and cat hair-coated couch. Upstairs, please. I followed him upstairs to his room where we had talked before, and I lay down on the bed on my left side. And I looked up at him, and with the same non-thought as the moon on my eyes that morning, I reached out my right hand. Owen took my right hand in his and did not let go, and climbed over me and lay down behind me and put his arms around me, his right arm tucked under my chin, his hand on my heart, not my breast, and we slept for more than 6 hours straight. I had never been held like that for so long in my entire life. Ever. Jack wasn't demonstrative or physical like that. Owen spooned me for at least 2 or 3 hours, then we turned over and I spooned him for a while, and then back, he spooning me. When he was behind me, his mouth was on the back of my neck, a sensation new to me. But he didn't kiss or touch, nothing sexual at all. We just slept. I was not thinking, not worrying, not scared, wholly safe. The window faced east, and the room filled with sunlight. We woke once and talked a little. His head was under the window to my left as I looked up at him. I'm blind and had taken my glasses off to sleep, but he didn't seem blurry, his face grazed by the sun. It is how I see him in my memory. I can get really close to someone and still see clearly. And he said, I love you, Janae. And I said, I love you too, Owen. I hugged him tight and fell back asleep, my head on his shoulder, until 3 in the afternoon. We got up and he went downstairs and I went to the bathroom. I had heard his housemate and her boyfriend all day and thought they knew I was there, though we were in his room the entire time. So when she timidly knocked on the bathroom door, I was embarrassed as I opened it, even as I scolded myself that I had nothing to be embarrassed about. Oh, it's you, Janae. And we hugged. Have you been here this whole time? Yeah, I said. They were really good friends, so I figured Owen told her I was there. I camped out on the dunes all weekend and needed a nap before going home. Of course, she said. Owen and I left soon afterwards to go to a movie, but as we parked, the day's last sun in our eyes, he said, Janae, I feel like I'm high, but I'm not high, and I don't know what to do with this. I made myself look him straight in the eyes as I listened. The only thing that would have made today more perfect is if I had woken up kissing you, he said. I blinked. Something inside me unfurled, hoping, still devoid of thought. I had walked off the dune, resolved to move towards love, to use my heart muscle with no fear, to cherish those I love. And Owen was friend, deeply loved. So his words did not scare me. I took them in the context of friend, real, true friendship, as deep as any love I had known. Parentheses. This is not an apology, but dang. Reading what I wrote and felt, I am in awe of my ignorance 9 years ago. 12 now. Please recall that I had been a virgin at 28 when I married Jack, having dated no one longer than 6 weeks before him. I was so naive, so ignorant, and so starved for physical affection. I knew Jack loved me, but even though I know that my pain over the years was real, I cannot help being ashamed of my movement toward Owen, because I still respect and am friends with Jack. My marriage had problems for years before meeting Owen, but my feelings for him were so unfamiliar, so different from how I had felt for Jack before marrying him, that I had no idea where my words could take me. I was not a victim, but so monumentally clueless about what I wanted and needed that when I finally realized I would never find what I needed in my marriage, it was devastating. End parentheses. I blurted, I thought about kissing you, but I didn't want to make that first move. Parentheses. If I had been thinking, which I wasn't, it would have been something like this. What do I even mean? What am I saying? Did he mean what he said? How long have I wanted him to kiss me? He's my friend, period. I know you can love your friends, but can you kiss your friends? Our silence was crystalline. You know, if we ever go there, for me, it would have to be his hands held each other almost delicately. I held myself to silence, to hear him. I've never been in a place where I had a deep friendship and respect for someone before I had sex with them, he said. He looked me in the eyes. My mind froze, hearing the word. Are my outer eyes as wide as my inner eyes? I thought. With his words, I felt swept away. Sex has always been a way to get closer to someone, but I'm already that close to you. So for me, it would almost be like practice in a way. Practice, of course! My entire being seized on the word. I don't recall with clarity what I said, but I remember what I wanted to do and say. I wanted to kiss him right there and beg him to take me, so I would know. He could teach me what I had not learned in 10 years of marriage. He could be my friend in this way. Friends can practice. In my mind, I had no thought of divorce. Indeed, I had hopes it would help my marriage. He, of course, knew better. Sorry, I will say that accurately. He, of course, knew better. We definitely needed to talk about what had happened that day, the spooning, but I was so clueless. In a way, I think we stepped out of flow in trying to figure it out immediately. It was dark when I took him home. Dark when I got home to my ecstatic children. I don't recall what Jack said to me or I to him. I don't recall where I slept or if I did. I have no memory of it except for how the hugs of my children felt perfect. In my memory, that day sits like a molten mass of amber, shot with sunlight, bright on the continuum of my life's timeline. Someday it will harden into a memory, but it will also be bright. It will always be bright, glowing, and warm. The following week, I thrashed with the need to be held like that again. Need, must. It was painful and exquisite. I felt I would not stay alive without knowing that feeling again. I was a tactile, touchy, physically affectionate person married to someone who did not sneak a hand under my skirt or reach for my body without thinking. Because of Jack's unresponsiveness to my asking for more sex and exploration, because of how many times I had hesitantly asked and been ignored, how he had wanted nothing to do with the project, how I'd had to beg him to do the sex items on my list, because of how it had not made him reach for me more. I could not ask, "Jack, could you please spoon me?" I knew he would feel put upon. I knew it would last for no longer than 10 minutes. I had no hope he would turn toward me. On the nail. We're almost done, guys. It's a long one. Owen came to my birthday party at my house with his housemate, her boyfriend, and a couple others the following Sunday. After everyone, including Owen and his people, left, 2 of my friends stayed drinking beer as Jack and I sat with them around the bonfire. Excuse me. We talked about the project and doing wild things, and my friend kept insisting he could be my, quote, wild proxy in Amsterdam, so I'd never have to do wild things again. Do I want a proxy? I thought. He asked Jack, "Would you want to know what she did in Amsterdam?" "No, not at all," said Jack. "Really?" said my friend. "Would you want to know if she ever had sex with anyone else?" "No, I don't want to know. I wouldn't want to know," said Jack. They looked shocked, dropped the subject, and left soon after. I think they assumed I would want to have sex with other men, but I didn't want a separate life of my own. I wanted to be bonded, for Jack to know me and to want to know me, all of me, even my faults. Jack's answer was simply another way he said, "I don't want to know you," which was, to me, "I don't love you." He had been saying that physically for years, in subtle and small ways. On Sunday after my birthday party, Stella came into town from San Francisco and we went out that night. We ended up getting plastered at 15C. I got home and Jack gave me his usual laughing kind of grief about it, but I could tell he was serious. I didn't know if it was defensive, but he said, "Gonna make this a habit?" I could tell he was truly worried about me. So I said, "Why don't you come out with me and we'll hang out with my friends and I'll get drunk and you'll drive me home and that way you'll know I'm safe. Come out and play." And he got really quiet with a tiny smile. And I looked at him and I looked at him again and I said, "You don't want to see me drunk." And he said, "No." And internally, I backed up and thought, okay. And I didn't ask him anymore about the gaping hole between us. I told my friend Ellery about it the next day, and she asked, "He's a Leo, isn't he?" Personal dignity. Your actions reflect on him, and if your actions are stupid, it's going to make him look stupid and undignified. I said, "That's so silly. Surely that's not it. He's not like that." She just raised her eyebrows and shrugged. So I went home and said to Jack, "Do you know what Ellery said?" I told him. And he said, I told him. And he said, "Boy, she hit that one on the nail." "What?" I exclaimed. I had no more words. If he did not want to know me when I was silly or stupid, then he did not want to know me. I finally saw him. He seemed unable to voluntarily extend outside himself for me. Maybe to him it felt like murder, like taking away his very life. He did so for the children, though. He was and is a great dad. But he could not seem to reach for me. The day after, I wrote Owen an email asking him if we could just hold each other. He was still firmly in my mind's friend box. I was not thinking sex, though his saying the word had made me realize he might be thinking that way. I could still feel the spooning, that golden amber ball of a day. Forget the sex stuff, I said. Could we just hold each other? He wrote me back right before he went out of town. He said, "No. Self-control is at a premium for you and me, and you know this, and we talked about that, and we could not cuddle and not go further." And he went on, "And frankly, I'm a bit disturbed that you would even think it would be possible, and it makes me think your judgment isn't where it should be regarding us and this." It was a hard, honest email, and hurt. What I heard was that he did have deep and abiding feelings for me, that he wanted me, and because he couldn't have me forever, he knew there was no way I would leave my children. He thought being with me was dangerous. It felt like he was questioning my motivation and character. And so I wrote him an email explaining why I needed to cuddle and why I knew it could not become sexual. Parentheses. I was so god-awful clueless. Holy crap. So I explained the history with Jack, where I was physically, and I told Owen that I had never been held that long in my life. I sent it the day he left. He was gone for over a week and didn't respond until he got back. Not hearing from him was excruciating. Parentheses. Now I know how he takes time to think things through before responding, that it's an asset in his character. Then it felt cruel. Before sending my letter, I had asked Ellery if I should tell him all of the whys, and she said he would probably want to know. He said, "She was right. I'm very glad to know. It is wrong that you have never been held like that. It is fundamentally wrong. Oh my God, I can't believe it." He said that he understood, but that was not a yes. We went for coffee once and talked more, and I was asking him to teach me about sex. Oh, okay, sorry. I was so clueless, wow. And I was asking him to teach me about sex because I felt like I didn't know anything. And he was my friend whom I loved and trusted, and I did think it would be fine and wouldn't mess up my marriage. And he took a long time to respond again. I thrashed. Parentheses. From Owen's perspective, he must have been so scared. He didn't want to ruin my marriage, take me away from my children. I can imagine how my ignorance complicated it, making my words and actions difficult for him to understand. If I'm as deeply honest as I can muster, I know that if he had made one iota of a move toward me, I would have tossed my whole life away to be with him. He saw himself as the cause and wouldn't go there. When Owen got back, we had a long talk at a park. All I recall was his saying we would always be friends no matter what. Parentheses. I could show you where we sat in the grass among the fallen fruit of a tree in the sun. And it could have been romantic, and it was, but we didn't kiss like it would be in the movies to be romantic. That spot on the sidewalk. Over the next couple of weeks, Owen and I acted like always. We were friends. We went hiking and to Chipotle. We sent each other music. In the last weekend of October, I went to my first roller derby match with my friend Scott and his friend Donovan. They bought me my first Hefeweizen beer, orange and all. I sat there with these two 6'4" guys, and I watched a girl crash into the corner of the wall around the track, and it swept over me. I was that girl. I had crashed. I had not seen it coming, and I had crashed. I was bloody and hurting and incapable of picking myself up off the floor of my life. I sat there between my friends with my beer in my hands and the crowd rooting for whichever team, and I wept. At a break, I walked out of the auditorium to the sidewalk outside. I called Jack to check in, asked about the children. And our words were mundane, but his words of the days before floated in the chasm between us. I stood there on the concrete and spoke mundane words, and I spoke over the sounds of an alarm going off inside of me, as though I woke up in our house to walls I thought had been solid, but were just beautiful tapestries blowing away in the wind. I had been blind. I could see no way to build solid walls, to mend the rubble of my marriage. Still standing there, still crying, I called Owen. And in an instant, that bright, glowing amber ball of a day illuminated my wounded heart, and I knew that I was completely in love with him, and had been for a long time, and that he was not in Friendbox. Not at all. He was all over my life and embedded in it. I stirred my coffee longer because of him. I listened to new music because he taught me to not be afraid. I freaked straight to anger if I thought he had ditched me. I was brittle and achingly happy when with him, petrified, alive. I was in love. This was what in love felt like. I forced myself to be honest, to tell him why I was crying, that I had just realized how hard it was going to be to work things out with Jack. He kindly and empathetically repeated that that was not right and not good, not how our relationship should be. He did not say, "Come here now so I can hold you," and I did not ask. I did not tell him what I had realized about him. I'm sure he knew, but I did not say the words. A few days later, I wrote a poem to Owen. You are not the earthquake under my feet, nor the monsoon. You shined a light on my path. Years later, a dear friend said, the heart will have its way. Do we stop it? Should we? And that is the end of everything except the epilogue. So what happened is tomorrow night. Wow, it's humbling reading that. It's humbling. I couldn't see it. And I feel really dumb. I feel really dumb for not seeing it. Or being so good at self-delusion, that I didn't see it. I'm probably going to have a good cry. I'm not going to tell you the end because you'll read about a lot of it tomorrow night. I mean, I'll read it to you. But I hope you tune in tomorrow night for the epilogue, and just thank you again. Feeling this is really intense, even though it was so long ago. It's crazy how I can still feel it. Anyway, I hope you've had a good day, and I hope this didn't ruin your night. And take care of yourselves and be gentle with yourselves. Okay?